Everyone, I hope you're doing well this afternoon, and we thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Caroline Player, and on behalf of the Georgia Tech Alumni Association, I welcome you all. We are in it for an exciting twist on the Grow Fearlessly series as Laura Hodgson leads conversations with entrepreneurs. This is our first month in this new series. For those of you who participate in our spring webinars, you are familiar with Laura, but for those of you who are new joiners, let me tell you a little bit about her. She has two guests with her today, and she is going to tell you about our guests coming up shortly. The President and CEO of Now Account. She has launched product and service businesses, raised capital, and served in executive management roles with Nourish, Insignia Consulting, Dubig Capital Corporation, AXL. Laura has extensive experience in brand development, corporate strategy, business development, marketing, and operations, and she's worked with companies such as Nike, Coca-Cola, Keds, and others. Laura received an MBA from the Harvard Business School and bachelor's in aerospace engineering with highest honors from Georgia Tech, where she was a scholarship member of the varsity track team, named one of the top 20 students in the U.S. by USA Today, and was selected to study in Japan with the U.S. Department of Defense. She was also ambassador to Lebanon during the 1996 Olympic Games. Serves as an adjunct instructor for graduate classes in finance at the Scheller College of Business here at Georgia Tech, and serves as a founding board member of Atlanta Heights Charter School. She has served on the boards of Flag Bank, Society of International Business Fellows, Central Atlanta Progress, and Georgia Tech Alexander Tharp Fund. Was a member of the Leadership Atlanta class of 2004 and Leadership Georgia class of 2005. She's been honored by the Georgia Tech Athletic Association with the Total Person Alumnus Award and by the Georgia Tech Women in Engineering as Alumna of the Year. I am going to excitedly throw the program over to you guys, Laura. Just by matter of housekeeping, if you notice our participants, just make sure that you're on mute during the course of the conversation. If you'd like to ask questions, please use the chat function. I've already activated the chat window by sending you all messages. That bubble should be up in the upper right-hand corner if you want to pull that window down. But Laura, let me turn the program over to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Caroline. So we're excited to have everybody back. As was mentioned, if you've been on some of our webinars earlier this year, you'll remember that we've talked about a variety of topics that have everything to do from starting your business to selling your business to growing your business. And in most of those cases, it was a lot of me talking because I have an opinion on a lot of things. But what we started to think about was how we can involve more tech entrepreneurs in a process and also get to hear from a wide range of businesses that our tech alums have started or bought or are running. And so that we're kind of starting our this part of the series. And it's funny because I'm today by two people, Jean Marie Richardson and Mark Hutto. I'll tell you a little bit about them in a second. But as we were thinking about this format, I thought back to when I was starting business school at Harvard, and I remember everybody telling me that it was going to be the case method. To an aerospace engineer from tech, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. They just read stories about other people and learn how to do things, because my whole life at tech had been about formulas, right? I mean, somebody stood at a board, some professor that never looked at us, but just looked at the board and wrote all these formulas down, and we memorized them, and then we took a test and passed it. And so I didn't buy it at first. I thought this case method couldn't possibly have much to it, that we were just going to read stories. But I'll tell you, once I got up there and I started reading these cases, it really brought everything to life. I remembered it, and I can tell you with great certainty that I remember very few of my aerospace engineering formulas. So we're going to use the same thing here, only these are live cases. So the beautiful thing is you'll get to not only hear from, but also ask questions of those people that are in the trenches every day today. And I want to introduce Mark. Mark was actually at Tech the same time I was, so we go way back. And while I was running track, he was a member of the illustrious 1990 National Championship football team. He ring and reminded me that it is the 25th year, 25th anniversary, which just makes me old.
You started when you were 10 at Tech. You were 10 years old.
I did. So happy to have Mark here. Mark, out of Tech, started working with Shaw Industries and got into the textile space. I'm going to ask him to tell us a little bit about that path and how he got to where he is today with his own business, Certified Finishes. And we also have Jean Marie Richardson. Jean Marie also went to Georgia Tech Management College many years after Mark and I did. Yeah, many. There's a different number on the end. And she has recently joined my team here at Now Account, running financial services. She also has a background having started her first business in high school because her dad wouldn't pay her an allowance. And so she's got some great stories to tell as well, and different stories. So basically with that, we'll just get started. I'm going to ask a series of questions, and we're just going to talk, and then at the end we'll open it up to questions that you might have as well. So question, and just to start out, when you were at Tech, you know you wanted to go into the textiles business? Is that something that you know about, or?
It wasn't on my agenda.
It wasn't your agenda?
Graduating was the only thing I could say.
That was it. You were getting out.
That's right. Yeah, it did. And I didn't get to go forward afterwards. I guess I went to the graduate school of now.
There you go. Much more valuable.
I have to Tech. Been really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Graduated, and through some good connections, I went with Shaw Industries, which was based out of Dalton, Georgia, and hired through the whole process. And
and were you in Dalton?
I trained, lived in Dalton for about 4 or 5 months, and then got sent out to my first territory. And
in sales, or?
Yeah, basically Shaw kind of at that time was dividing their company into residential and commercial business, and I was part of the commercial sales team.
Yeah.
In the huge growth period.
And then after you'd been at Shaw for a while, you went on to another company. Was it a smaller company?
It was a smaller startup, not really a startup, but some guys that left Shaw Industries and bought a smaller company called Blue Ridge out of Ellijay, Georgia, and I worked on a regional level at Shaw, but this was an opportunity to look at it on a national level. I mean, the national sales manager, and got to see a lot of different customers and ways people do business.
Yeah. So when did you think or know you wanted to start your own business? Did you always know you wanted to be in business for yourself, or did you figure that out later?
I figured it out later. You know, going back to once I started traveling the country, actually, Italy, a lot of our customers were doing this, and I just kind of take notes of their practice.
Yeah.
Besides me just selling them a product, I really started my own little you could say is the easy word, of things I've learned that was working in Seattle versus Washington, D.C., and our first year of working for a small company, I decided that I would be going downstream business eventually.
Yeah. Well, and interesting, because I hear so many people say, you're born an entrepreneur, you're not. And, you know, people I think know they want to be their own boss from the time they're young, and maybe they're not even employable. I mean, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that would say they're not employable. And it was different. Like, I never woke up and said I've got to own my own business, but like you, I had experienced being an employee in a number of different businesses and started to see things that I would do different. But for me, it wasn't until I became a mom that was my catalyst to, I've got to start my own thing, mainly because I wanted flexibility. So what was sort of your catalyst when you finally said, so you're building this notebook and you're seeing all these things that you think, you know, would be a good service in the industry? What made you make that leap to start?
I would say pretty simply is I felt I create a better way to do it. And
did you already have customers lined up? Like, could you start to lay that groundwork?
there might have been a little pipeline laid out there on, what we're gonna
That's
do.
smart, yeah.
We definitely.
You didn't leap off the cliff and eat peanut butter for a year.
Exactly. We had relationships, from the connecting level, and we saw a need, okay? And we were permitted to do the business that really had been done in our business. It's been around forever, obviously, and we took back to service our business, customers in a different way.
Yeah. I think it's important, my business partner laughs that I think there are people who are intentional entrepreneurs, and I think there are people that are reluctant entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. My business partners are reluctant entrepreneurs. Quick say she had no desire. She loved paychecks. She liked risk. But I was so excited about doing it that she kind of felt like, okay, I've got a partner in crime, so I've got somebody to lean on. So she says I sort of brought her kicking and dragging along the way. But it's important because a lot of people out there that could start a business and could be a great business owner, even if they've been told their whole life, you're not a risk taker, you're not, you weren't instantly entrepreneurial.
For the man.
Right. Whoever this man is.
Right.
I think is interesting is I started a business because they're passionate about what they do. Like they became passionate about the industry or the clients or the service. For me, it's the opposite. I couldn't really care about the what.
Right.
It's the so what that matters to me because, I've had technology companies, I've had product companies, I've had service companies. I now have a finance company, and I don't even really like finance that much. But the so what that matters because the what means the impact. The impact that we have on our clients is what I get passionate about. The what could change tomorrow, and I would be just as passionate about the break. So, what is it that excites you the most about business? Is it the what? Is it the impact?
Yeah, it's a combination of all those things. I mean, when you talk about impact, again, opportunity, and a lot of, I take a lot of pride in what we've done. We employ approximately 50 people. First started, we had 7 employees. People, you don't have a debt or you're thinking of doing it when you get that dinner or lunch that you have, and you look around the room and you see acting not just those employees' lives, but their children.
Oh, yeah.
Before you know it, that you're acting 50, 100 people's lives and making a real difference. It's to me now.
That's like, yeah.
It's really
Because people throw numbers around and say, we created 5 jobs. But that's not a number. I mean, that's not just 5. Like you said, I mean, each of those jobs is a family that can then have the life that they want to have and educate their children and, raise their children and their children. So that's awesome. Yay.
Yeah.
Well, so the next question I had, and worse in this way is, have you always had partners when you started your businesses?
Yes, I have.
I have 2, which is interesting because people are always asking, like, is it better to have your own business or to have a partner? And I have feelings on that. But, as you think about partnership, for me, the positive side to having a partner is it was a catalyst for me to do something. To myself, I'm not sure. I'd have found lots of other things to do. Having a partner that I was a little bit beholden to and that I was responsible to early days was great. I've also made mistakes on partners where I brought in a partner because it was I have company, I wanted to have somebody to work with. I'm sure they seem to have a great background, so it's like, oh, this is the perfect puzzle, right? They've got a background in marketing, and I've got a background in finance, and it worked awful. And it worked awful. And it was not fun. But I think the breakup is that all the things on paper made the puzzle work, but at the end of the day, our values were different, our goals in life were different, and that's more important than whether your background is marketing or finance. So partners too. What do you?
Right, and
what's your experience been?
I originally had two partners, and I'm there now, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, owning a partner is no different than being married. It even be tougher a lot, and not the same page where you will be not 6 years, but 5 years, 10 years down the road, and it can cause huge disruption. What you're trying to accomplish when you are on the same page.
Yeah.
And that changes. That changes, year to year. So we constantly, we ourselves as business, we all are, we sit down once a quarter, my partner and I, and kind of check on each other to see where we want to be. And we get away from the office, and we sit and turn the phones off and count ourselves. And, we did that before. It caused I had one of my partners 6 years ago. But since then, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say too, if you're thinking about getting a partner, I always say make sure it's someone that you know well enough that you know the important things that drive their values, their character, etc. But they're not so close that it's your best friend. Of course, you don't want to keep your best friend. But, people often say, oh, my friend and I were so close, we're going to start a business together. And I'm always nervous about that because you're on top of each other all the time. And I think good business partners are close enough, but your lives don't overlap so much that you're on top of each other in every other aspect of your life.
Right.
Because it'll mess up every other aspect of your life.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, as much as I like to say business is business, if you're going to have a partner, there's going to be a personal aspect of it. And, again, I go back to the word core values of that person. Okay? If those are aligned with what you're doing, you may do great this year, you may do great next year, but eventually those two are going to conflict, and there's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, and it's harder to unwind. And everybody was happy when you're putting it together. It's the unwinding that's miserable. Well, you've had, in your business, you've had different partners because you have a partner in your business, which, like you said, is like a marriage. But you've also done joint ventures or different projects. How's that been? Because I've never done that.
That's a challenging aspect, and when you do joint ventures, obviously you're not something, so you kind of actually it's not considered a long-term thing. So, history of knowing what you get into can be key. And we've had success. We've had some disagreement.
Right. And you're mostly project-based?
Yeah, we're
project or
project-based. And we review those just, again, we didn't do this at the beginning, but we want some projects completed, see if our objectives were met.
Yeah.
I would say expectations. When we talk about people have expectations of what you know.
Right.
That's got to be set up early and be focused on.
Yeah, from my perspective, I've worked in joint venture, and that project was Google Wallet. So Google Wallet, which everyone thought was only successful, sort of, I'll just put it out there, way up. And joint venture turns into who can blame the other.
Right.
And that is a hot seat you do not expect. You're dealing with enough in the market and trying to write it or figure out how to solve it, but when it's going under, and you're taught that in the textbook.
Right.
And I share that, and it's a painful experience. Is, okay, if this project doesn't work out, what will happen in this joint venture?
Yeah. And I think those discussions have to be made on the front end. Yeah. I mean, I've had some failed ventures, like we said, outside our core business, and we start talking about what we're going to do and how great it's going to be. I will never get into I hope I don't ever get things with knowing what bottom side could be.
Right. Talk about the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
If this thing goes absolutely wrong, what does that look like?
Right.
What could go wrong?
Let's be honest about
Yeah.
what we
Well, and because our Business Now account is a certified woman in business, and that's very prevalent in projects where you partner with someone who might have a woman in status or a minority status, et cetera. And again, what motives involved, right? Because different people join projects for different reasons, making sure that while you can benefit from those things and maybe access projects you couldn't access before, make it that everybody has the same definition of quality, deliverables. So I haven't partnered with anybody yet, but yeah, that's right. Definitely, I mean, as you think out there, and Jean Marie brings up a good point, partners can be owners in your company, which is the tightest partnership you have because, now it's about control and ownership. They can be joint venture partners, which are just a project, or in the case of Google Wallet, they can be partners like in multiple companies that are coming together. I mean, just within a company as big as Google, you would have that same thing. And I have, and we've all been involved with starting businesses and growing businesses. Which is harder, to start, or is it harder to scale?
I would do. I mean, if you're starting a business, you feel pretty successful that you can deliver. Somebody wants the things or growth plans and time frame. And I even say on scaling, I think it's important for people to use downsize too.
Scaling up or down.
That's right. My business right now, like many people on this webinar, is in high growth mode. And it's great. But I'm always thinking about what in 2 or 3 years if things sound, how I can transition back.
Yeah.
So it's on my mind.
Yeah. Well, it goes up, comes down at some point. That's what they say. Well, and I agree. I think it's probably never been easier to start a business than it is today. I mean, maybe not necessarily in the industry that you're in because there's a pretty good capital cost doing it, but certainly in the world of Georgia Tech and technology, it's probably been easier to start a business. You don't need to shoot. You can 3D print your prototypes. I had to spend $100,000 to have my molds made way back when you couldn't just print it. So on one hand, that's amazing because the barriers have come down and you have an idea. It takes a relatively small amount of money to get it started, but that's probably never been harder to scale. So I think the infrastructures, like distribution infrastructures and sales channels, are so much more complicated. More complicated today than when you first started out with lots of...
Oh, definitely. Technology is how to impact that. I mean, obviously, if you're making something, selling something, or providing a service, every channel's got more complex, and you got to work within the boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay. And be able to create new ways to do it better.
Yeah. What's something, if you were to think back, that you wish you had known when you started was going to be? Was there something that you're like, dang, I should have known that? And was
I'll go back to the main word. It takes to operate.
Yeah.
I did fear being able to sell. I didn't have a clear idea of money and finance. And, I assumed I could do something and I just get the money and, hey, I put a little in the company. And
as long as what it cost you to make it and what you got paid for it was different, right? Then you had a profit, you're good.
So I don't think I spent enough time really thinking about growth, how you would handle all the way down the line. Those things are at a smaller So when our revenues were smaller, but those, something too, you know, when your revenue hits, you can do it one way, but that's evolving when you get to $10 billion. It evolves again at 15, and it evolves again at 20. So I think constantly got to be viewing what your challenges are going to be.
Yeah. Well, that was my aha too when I had Nourish, my bottled water company. Same thing. I had done all the research to figure out what it was going to cost me to make a bottle, and I had done all the research on what I could price it at, and what the retailer was going to charge me, you know, what I was going to be able to charge them, and I'd figured out the margins, and everything was great. And then the sales started getting bigger, and the zeros were harder and harder to manage, and nobody paid me on time, which was driving me nuts. I was, you know, here, the first time I sold a big order to Whole Foods, and they said, well, we want net 30. So I thought I was smart. I went to my suppliers and said, well, I'm going to need 60 days, right, because they need 30. So I'm going to come, I need some time to build in a little cushion. And, you know, shipped the product, and the 30th day came, and a check did not, and the 45th day came, and a check did not, but another order came. So I'm all excited. I go back to my suppliers, guess what? We got another order. And they said, guess what? No. Like, what do you mean no? And they're like, you haven't paid us for the first one. And I said, well, of course I haven't, because I haven't been paid yet.
Right.
And then you end up, you know, basically, I mean, it's to have to turn down that order and say, you paid me yet. That, you know, I said earlier, I don't like finance. I still don't like finance, but that was what caused, you know, me to find John Hayes and start Now Account. Is I was like, my gosh, how is anybody supposed to grow a business when they're paid? I mean, I wanted to sell water, not be a bank to other people. So, but you know, and it's interesting about the side too, like scaling up and scaling down. And I actually have a picture here because I saw this article with Carolyn, I can send to you and you can post, but this was called Give Away Your Legos and the Commandments for Scaling Startups. And the reason they called it that is they talked about the people side, that when you start a business and there's like 5 of you and you sit around a table, everyone's kind of on the same page, right? For they cannot be on the same page because you don't have it since everybody hears each other's phone conversations, so you all know what's going on. But it's growing and you're hiring more people. The challenge is that the 5 that were there to begin with each had 10 jobs. They didn't know it, but they did. And so when the 6th person comes in, you got to give up one of your jobs. Yeah. And nobody likes to give up their Legos because you've been building that tower, and now you're supposed to give it to somebody else, and they're not going to build it the way you built it. So that can't be right. I sort of get worried, well, if I give them part of my job, I'm not going to have that much to do. I'm out of a job, which is not the case, right? I mean, because the company's growing. And so this whole article was about how you have to give up your Legos, and that's the only way to grow. And then give up your Legos, you might just find on the table next to you there's a whole pile waiting to be built. But definitely seen that. I mean, here you think everybody's excited to grow, this undertone of nervousness. I mean, you've got 50 people. I didn't realize you were that. That's awesome.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I spent a time with an executive and we have that talk a lot because I had that challenge. As a business owner, you know, it's going to be hard to find somebody that has the passion of your business like you do. It's just you can advise them or see an opportunity. Hard to ever get somebody to get on that same wave.
Right.
And I would tell you how you said y'all had a conversation a few weeks back about how to exit your business. You know, what tells me is, hey, you maximize any value in your business if you are the person that without business falls apart.
Right.
So give away.
Yeah.
And it's painful to do.
It's probably the hardest for the founder than it is for, I mean, yeah. Yeah.
And that way you'll really maximize that.
Right. Well, on the last webinar when we talked about building for the exit, one of the things that really hit me was a lot of founders invest their time and their dollars building pieces of a business that are valuable to them, but probably not valuable to a potential buyer, right? Just like if you're the center of your business, they're not buying you.
Right. That's right.
You're not for sale. But you're building your business, you put money into things. It's sort of like your house, right? You invest in things, and you think someday you're going to sell the house and the value is going to be the land plus the house. And then you find out that somebody plans to knock your house down. So to them, the value is the land minus the cost to tear down your house.
Sure.
And so that really resonated with me in terms of, wow, am I investing in things that are valuable to others or just that are valuable to me? So,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
But yeah, sort of giving up your Legos is really a challenge for the founder, but then how do you encourage your employees to do that in a way that they don't get nervous?
Yeah.
You know, because you tell someone, well, you're now going to give up, you're going to move on to this job, and you're going to give so-and-so what you were doing, and let that go.
We use some of these words here that are now cliche, but I mean, that is a long-range vision too.
Yeah.
And I would sit down every week with those, going back to your process, those key factors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we spend a lot of time getting back their opinion, trying to work with where we do business. We don't want to make that decision. Number one, I don't. The bigger your company gets, the further you're going to get away from the blocking and tackling. Okay, and I see that now. So things I thought that way, and the only way to do it a year ago are changing.
Right.
And, to take advice is my key.
Well, and as you get further away from your customer, you started the business because you were so close to the customer that you built your notebook.
Exactly.
And then as you get further away from it, you may not see the next opportunity around the corner.
Right.
So that you have sort of an advisor, an executive with another company that's not in your industry.
Right.
How do you, that's you. So this is somebody you meet with regularly that gives you advice that obviously is not from your industry.
Right. Georgia Tech man.
Oh, right.
Hey,
But I mean, that's all you need, right?
That's
Georgia
right.
Tech people know everything.
That's right. That's right. It's from a bigger scale business, a big corporate company, but it's sort of a mentorship, and I still have it today. You know, but that's right. That's right. But it's a different perspective, and everything doesn't apply to what I'm doing. I use the word vision. Okay? I want somebody to be looking at my business. We walk together in the morning, and I hear a story because I'm where he was 10 years ago. Constantly, he tells me about what to be looking for, and again, everything doesn't apply. I don't agree with everything, but it's great building board. Absolutely.
It's important.
That's right, and it comes without prejudice. I'll use the word prejudice to my industry.
You didn't have a dog in the fight you're in, right?
To have a dog in it, and he's looking at it from a very objective standpoint.
People can look at something you've been staring at for days and they see it so clearly and you're like, how did I not see that? My husband does that all the time and it really makes it, I'll come home complaining about something and he's like, well, of course, this is the way you looked at it. And I thought, now how did you see that? I've been staring at it for 5 days, frustrated, that I couldn't see the solution.
Yeah, I obviously so ingrained with what you're doing it. And you put your head down and you tell you how you're doing what you can and hard work, but going around you, sometimes you've got to take those blinders off. You've got to peel them back.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good, suggestion too for all the people that are on this webinar. Most of us went to tech, which makes everybody qualified to be a great mentor, right? I think it's important to say it doesn't have to be somebody from your industry. It doesn't have to be somebody that knows totally what you're doing. It needs to be somebody who's been through battles. They may not be the same battles that you've been through, but be able to have just some clarity of thought, right?
Sure.
So, that's a great use for the tech alumni.
Yeah, and I tell you, I think you find people that enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Use that word mentoring. I don't know if it goes away.
Yeah.
I sure hope it will.
What I kind of did several years ago is, I don't know, I never really loved the word mentor. And I think it's because when I was at Tech and people would always say, so how do you find a mentor? As if you go shopping for them, like they're not on sale. And I always felt like when I met people and they would talk about their mentors, that it was somebody whose job was primarily to build them up. And I mean, my mom does that. I mean, I have lots of people around me that'll tell me, Laura, don't worry, it's not that bad. I kind of wanted the opposite. Like, I wanted somebody not to build me up, but to tell me I was being a bonehead.
You're looking for a doctor.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if I feel bad and I need to feel better about myself, I can call my mom and dad, and they'll make me feel great, or my husband. But have somebody say, Laura, you are just so on the wrong track. And so to me, there was that you got to remove the emotion part of it for somebody to be able to say that to you. And so I called it my personal board of directors. Because to me, a board of directors is somebody that I have to sort of answer to, but that's not, their goal in life is not to make me feel better about myself. So some people that are similar, I mean, I use them as sounding boards, but I tell them up front, my goal for you to tell me it's okay, because sometimes it's not okay.
Right.
Sometimes I totally messed up, and you should just tell me that,
Right.
So, I'll look for people that aren't going to be your yes, aren't going to just tell you you're good when you're not.
Right.
I'm just not. Mentioned earlier capital, and that was for me too the biggest aha. How have you, as you've grown, and you said it kind of changes with scale, how solved that capital thing differently? Because I can hear people say, well, I don't know, should I sell equity, or should I get a loan, or should I, use now account, should I do this, that, and other? And my answer is always, well, a healthy growing business, you're probably going to need lots of different types of capital. And they're not even, right? $3 bills aren't all even, because one could be something they loaned you, and one could be an investment in your company, and $1 you earn from selling a product. Those are not all the same.
Right.
So you thought about, I mean, you've obviously scaled from small to, a sizable business. And how has that changed with each zero?
Well, it continues to change to this day. That's another life business that got to be in check with. Did it in many different ways. With financing, basically, you can hear a lot of different stories out there. You got to, first of all, be honest with yourself, okay, about the customer, how you're going to be getting your capital returned to you, whether it's silver or whatever. Then you got to be honest with your partners, and that's not always the right side of the picture. You gotta let them know that here's a historic cycle of finding that's how we've done it with our traditional banking, and also now our e-financiers. So we envelope. We're not afraid to ask questions, and I think people want to hide stuff. Because that could be seen as a weakness.
You don't want people to know you don't know something, or you got something wrong.
Right. But once we become full circle and open book with our suppliers, with our customers, with our suppliers, they appreciate us.
Right.
So don't be.
Don't pretend to be something you're not.
That's right. That's the worst thing, because you end up starting to hold yourself too. Right.
You start to believe your own.
That's your own stuff. Right.
Have you found, in about banks and things like that, there's these days everything's become so automated, it's hard to have relationships. Have you been able to, by being more open book, grow those relationships? Like, have banks been able to grow with you as you've gotten to different levels, or?
Absolutely. We send our, but we send our financials, we close our books every month.
Mm-hmm.
We send to our bank every month. So
it's not a requirement of your loan.
We view them as a partner, and we want them to know that we're in as much as they are. And it goes back to a point earlier, talking about expectations. If whoever you're doing this with from a finance standpoint, look to then your commitment that you want to have for you skin in. Right. I don't think I have a long-term platform.
Well, that probably also helps. I mean, you mentioned you're already thinking ahead to, you have years and years of rapid growth. At some point, that'll slow or even decline. Most people would want to hide that, not let your banker know that things didn't turn out as well this quarter as you thought. But let's share it, because if that's an early sign to something to come, I'm going to need their help.
Sure.
Right?
And you trick yourself. I mean, than anything, ahead of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, last thing any of us want to do is get so far underwater based on what we think is going to happen. I mean, what hope's going to happen? Exactly. What you hope is happen. And I'll say this again: our banker is a partner. We share a lot of data with us. So we're in 2016, 17. Our capital assets, that goes.
Yeah.
So it's not just as you were, partner is the real thing.
One other thing that I think is interesting is you and your suppliers. And the last thing I had on here, because I thought it'd be a good way for you to tell a little bit more about your business, is how do you know, businesses, every day you have new opportunities, and how do you know when to pursue new opportunities may cause you to completely pivot your business, or stay focused on your core and not pursue opportunities. A couple days ago, we were doing a radio show with a gentleman he's a service-disabled veteran, and his business in sort of promotional products, and has completely pivoted into facilities and grown his business 1,000x. I mean, it's a totally different business. And you have recently had some opportunities to add on new business lines that you would have never foreseen, right? And some of that came through your supplier. Tell me a little bit about like what you're doing with certified finishes now and some of the new exciting you have going on.
Yeah, I mean,
I even did a slide for you on stability and have carpet. Sustainable carpet. Look at that.
We got it for everybody on here. Call me. Again, back to the last topic, we think of the future and how everything is now, but everything is going to come back down. I started in the last 18 months about other things I can do within my business without huge capital cautions.
The core business has been console side installing various textiles, right?
All large-scale projects.
Yeah.
Eventually, when the downturn happens, I wanted to think about things that could still be impactful and be a revenue source. Not only that they're huge revenue sources for me to think, but I see an opportunity to grow these business. One of them, which you're talking about, is sustainability. We started an initiative at the in 14 that we won't name all the carpet tile coming out of Georgia, keep it from going to landfill. And every question a little bit when we got into it, but we, for a few of our suppliers, basically went and interviewed our suppliers about their needs, and the fact that the product was not coming back from the field, and they all made claims, and rather they created new technology that requires coming back from the field.
They need the recycled
They
materials.
need the recycled content to hit their objectives, long-term goals. So their problem was the companies that sounds good in theory, but they didn't have the mechanism to drive it to the field.
Right,
So,
and they don't touch the customer because you do.
That's right. That's right. That's right. They're just on the ground blocking and tackling as much as we are. But so we created a which we're dealing with our customers, other subcontractors. This can be dealing with contractors, dealing with building or facility managers. And really, the beauty of it, and we are getting revenues back from our suppliers. We basically set the rates together that's covering costs. We're making a little bit of money with it, but it's difficult to do.
Yeah.
It's difficult to be there. It's got to be fast. It's fast-paced business.
How does it work? You collect it and then you sell that?
We are a collection site, our facility, but we go and get it from the facilities once it's been on. Sometimes we perform that service. We offer that within our sustainability package. The customer, we're doing this for the cost of the construction process. So we go and we surprise. It's the greatest in the world. We said for nothing. And it's
Right.
not want to reclaim their carpet out of the landfill is not going to cost them.
It's very cost anything, yeah.
So the beauty of this, actually, when I got into this, I didn't really, this has become a huge development opportunity for my core business.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah.
Because we're talking to people about something we're trying to sell something. Everybody's trying to sell something.
We would sell them, and then they don't need you for a while. Now you have a reason to come back.
And we're meeting customers, we're meeting new people, and there's a natural problem still tied to the same thing that they want us to perform their work. So it's developed a lot of new customers for us, and we're making an impact.
Yeah.
And we feel great about what we're doing, and we see huge growth with it.
Yeah.
We've out of landfill, Georgia, in 8 months.
Into a whole nother supply chain going the opposite direction, right?
Exactly. And again, it goes back to our customers. For example, we kind of did this on our own with a John Deere project, corporate office of John Deere. And I just took it on my own initiative to find out what John Deere's was on sustainability. It's a huge deal for them, okay? So I acted their corporate office out of, and told them about what we're doing. It filtered all the way through the company, through our supplier, getting recognition for it, and they're in the process of setting a national program. So not only did we impact our business, we helped suppliers,
Right.
which can strengthen our relationship even more in the future.
Well, I think it helps. I mean, I'm just thinking about us. I mean, we're a small business, but we're growing 2x a year, and we're doubling our office space. We would have to hire somebody to come in and tear this stuff out, because you're lucky you're in our office. Our carpet's all stained. Mark's criticizing us right now, I'm sure. But hire somebody to come in and take all this out before they put the new stuff in, whereas you guys could come and take it at no cost to us.
That's right.
I like that.
That's right. Who wouldn't want it? Sell us up for nothing.
Well, but you're right, because, the thing is, I wonder how many times you hire somebody to come in and take it out and tell you they're recycling it. So you think you're good. I mean, when I was running another office years ago, I remember, we had the blue bins and we had the green bins, and we told everybody, put your recyclables in the blue bins. And one day I happened to be working late, and I see the cleaning folks come in, and everything went in the same bin. Like, they emptied the blue bin and the green bin into the same dumpster, and I thought, here we thought we were doing something good, but it really wasn't.
Right.
Does that happen?
We found a ton of misinformation out in the marketplace about what's happening. Just back to your analogy there, bins. We partners to prove it. Okay, we are the collection site. We've started a process that we are the carpet being reclaimed. We're we're showing on the truck, we're showing being processed.
Right.
Okay? That's third party certified. So again, we'll find that our suppliers are bigger companies than us, but they love it.
Yeah.
That is, again, that's a huge deal with the program as much as we are.
Right.
Okay? And
how much of the carpet that you go reclaim is really so worn and damaged that it needs to be shredded back up? I mean, do you ever go reclaim it and
you get the trade secrets now. What other?
I was just wondering if I could get some cheap carpet.
No, the carpet guys right here. No, actually, what we found is taking out the process. We actually we're repurposed. We're this venture we fixed a lot of office space. We were removing and taking back to be recycled. We saw another need. Another opportunity arose that 30-40% of the product really already been walked on.
Right.
So when we're doing this process with carpet aisle, which is a big part of our market, we're creating inventory, and it's allowed us to do a number of things. Go into some really low price markets and offer value.
Well, even startups. I mean, a lot of people, when you're starting your business, you know, you got to watch where every penny goes.
We developed a cleaning process to go with that. Basically, allow you to have a looking product for the entry level product.
Yeah.
So it's allowed us to do some other things, have for humanity and help out. And again, the right things to do. We can. It's not a line on my value
right.
having the payment or have such a huge cost with it.
Right.
So it's a huge driver for us in many areas as far as doing thing and marketing.
Well, we're getting close. We got about 10 minutes left, and so thought we could open it up for questions, but I also thought I'd put Mark's website up just because they've got some awesome pictures here of some of the work that they've done. If you look it up at certifiedfinishes.net, right? And they also have a really cool office.